So that's all right. Okay, this is some passages from my 130 or 50-page manifesto, my treatise on education called America's Liberation Education. And I started thinking about these thoughts in 2013, and I'm getting more and more articulated because I couldn't actually pound them down into a concrete sort of this is exactly what I want it to look like. All I could do is sit there and say that there's 10 different alternative educational visions that would provide the spirit for my new school, whereas I wasn't able to, like I said, hammer down the specific concrete attributes of my School of the Revolutionaries. Okay, so my School of the Revolutionaries, my mythical school or whatever, it's going to have different elements of all these different schools, and I like all these different schools and the different qualities, but I haven't been able to. I'm trying to, and I'm working on it to put all these together. But on page, it's actually 92 pages. Page 17, I'm just going to read straight through. So if you get a hold of the PDF, or if you actually get to check it out because it's actually really, really thoughtful. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let's go. So I will not only focus on my single classroom having to compete with additional pressures of their enclosed, oppressive, mini dictatorship society. So right now I'm deciding, do I want to write this treatise based on what I'm going to do in the classroom or how I want the school to look, okay? And so I will deal with the conditions of public education when I get there. For now, I will dream of this wonderland of education, this 1,000-acre farm with large, luxurious buildings like a hotel off the beaches of Santa Monica, a Taj Mahal sitting on a hill of gold, where every student's got a laptop, access to the internet, all the resources they could ever dream of having is here at the School of the Revolutionaries. Jean-Jacques Rousseau University is what I called it before, but I'm changing that because the man is fallible, right? Okay, so the School of the Revolutionaries, and all the students are running around, active, busy, working on this or that project in a sort of organized chaos type of environment. A few times folks can change the system from within. But when a revolution of change is called for, starting brand new is easier. One can try to change the system from within, but eventually the Leviathan will end up changing you. So I must dream big and be as idealistic as I possibly can, because I may not be the same person I am in a year's time after being inside the belly of the beast. At least at one point in my life, I held out hope to offer the very best education for my future theoretical American students. Also, perhaps this theory on education could serve as a periodic reminder of my rebellious roots, to serve as a check on my own authority, to be used as a primer for learning educational theorists and other models of institution currently operating on a liberation education model. This document can also be used as a spiritual document from which my educational wonderland, the Jean-Jacques Rousseau University, the School of the Revolutionaries, can be formed. Personally, I will continue to use this document for my own foundational understanding and framework for how and what education should be and organized. Since education is self-emergent and self-organized, and there's little risk with failing at my school for anybody, students, parents, or teachers. Backing off, getting off the students' backs is the smartest, easiest thing that one could do. If they aren't addicted, as long as they're not addicted to their sadistic power to control and domination over others. All any teacher today needs to do in order to understand where I'm coming from is to merely remember why they first chose to go into the teaching profession. Most teachers weren't looking for the easy lifestyle. Instead, they wanted to do something worthwhile to help educate society's children. They wanted to make a difference, and they wanted to help people. While the practical implications are the meat and potatoes of an educational institution, and I addressed some of those briefly, this paper is being written in order to provide an overall vision for the university, a liberation education, for a liberation education to become consolidated and institutionalized, for democratic structures to be formed, and for each and every student to be empowered to be all that they can be, from birth all the way to adulthood. This paper is not to destroy. Au contraire, it is to build. What is needed for American education to improve is first and foremost a framework of liberation, a theory on education, a strong overarching educational vision, one that liberates, is useful, covers all the ground that an education is supposed to cover, is called for. This vision should be able to educate the evolved student geniuses of Kentucky, as well as the information-laden adults. We live in the information age, which makes many old institutions of education obsolete. I read in the history books that America at one time liked freedom. At one time, Americans were Americans. It's time for Americans to start becoming Americans again. A good vision would be one which survives longer than its author. And this PDF is that attempt. So, Jean-Jacques Rousseau University. While I understand that resources are finite, one of America's major benefits compared internationally is our moderate wealth, such as running water, housing, clothing, food, etc. Many Americans have computers, internet access. The internet is clearly a game changer. The internet is the Gutenberg printing press revolution multiplied by 7 billion. This change needs to be embraced and institutionalized immediately. For those who do not have computers, computers should be purchased for them. Sugata Mitra's entire experiment, his hole-in-the-wall experiment, rested upon one singular, crappy, touch-screen computer embedded into an outside wall, and poor children. That's all that was needed. People and one crappy computer. Clearly, computers and the internet is here to stay, and in order to bridge the digital gap, the gap between those who have computers versus those who do not, all students should be provided with computers and access to the internet. Afterwards, many institutional changes can happen. All changes can be chosen, all classes can be chosen online, grades can be posted online, syllabuses can be posted online, blogs can be written, group discussions can all happen online. You don't even need to meet physically in a building anymore. Technology is just a tool which enhances our life, and we should get used and accustomed to using the tools as the masters of the earth, we the human race are, and us controlling them, and not with them controlling us. Radio transmitters, Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, our own web pages, YouTube channels, some type of student-run news media or obvious first to be established for the school. One of the students could also develop a website program for democratic tools in the school, get the invention patented, and make a boatload of money. Experimentation, innovation, and invention will be a capstone at Jean-Jacques Rousseau University. I hate books. They only teach one how to talk about what one does not know. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, 1762. That was a quote by Rousseau himself. So the heart of a Jean-Jacques Rousseau University education shall be to the liking of the children and the parents, for they're the final arbitrators of their children's life's decisions. I choose to name the university after Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, but like I said, I'm on the School of the Revolutionaries. So, and that's from the School of Americas, but School of the Revolutionaries, right? In fact, I want to do a revolution class. Start a whole bunch of like 15-minute videos and see which class actually kind of is in demand, and then give the people what they want. So, I chose Jean-Jacques Rousseau University in spite of his failings, okay? So, he had children, he put in the orphanage, or he lied about having children so his homosexuality wouldn't disgrace him. So, either he was gay and had no children and made up a story about his children being in the orphanage, or he was just a bad father and just put him in the orphanage. So, because Jean-Jacques Rousseau marks an important break with antiquity, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and company, he breaks with those ancient authors, and we get into modernity. So when it comes to the enlightened thought, strict indoctrination of the classics, Greek, Latin, and the rest, as well as the religious indoctrination and teaching, was the order of the day in Jean-Jacques Rousseau's time, 1700s France. Jean-Jacques Rousseau's writing is thought to have created the French Revolution. He was the spirit for the French Revolution, probably the most dramatic revolution that I could ever think of. What better, what better way to put a tyrant in check than to chop off its head? Louisville is named after that tyrant whose head was chopped off. So, does that mean Louisville loves their tyrannical oppressors? Probably. God, it's so hot in here. Okay. So, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Personally, his stream of advice has value by itself, but I love Rousseau's intoxicating work mostly because of the thoughts his book inspires, dancing around in my consciousness. I can't read, without thinking so many thoughts when I'm reading Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau believed that Emile, which is his treatise on education, was his best and most important of all his writings. There's three main periods for the education of Emile for Rousseau, and he organizes those periods by the separation of his books. Books 1 and 2 are the age of nature. That's the first period. Books 3 and 4 are the age of transition and adolescence. Then that's the third period, and then the fourth period is the age of wisdom. So the age of nature, from 0 to 12, the child can do what they want to do so they can figure out who they are. Age of transition and adolescence, you've got to mold that savage, wild child to be able to fit into society. You have to give something to society. You have to be productive and worthwhile to society in order to give back so that you can, make a living, but also to be part of civil society. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau believes that humankind is born inherently good. That's like the crux of his entire thing. Mankind, human beings are born good, but society is what corrupts them. So since Rousseau believes that mankind is born good, what is necessary for the education of the kind, gentle, good human being would be for them to be themselves, to understand themselves, to learn about the world through discovery and observation, to play games, to play outside, to find out their own ambitions, their own dreams, likes and dislikes, and for that goodness to be consolidated and to be made fit for civil society. So for that to be consolidated, his philosophy is that we are born good and then society corrupts us. Well, how are we going to stop society from corrupting us? Well, you got to consolidate that man is born good, and you got to keep man good, right? The savage person, back before civilization had happened, we were not going around hurting people. We were isolated and alone and free, and we were free. So that's the state of nature, according to Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And so how do we do that? How do we protect that goodness? How do we protect that person's goodness from being influenced by society? Well, you got to make that individual a super individual. You got to make it to where they will not be exploited or manipulated by society. Do not let society harm your babies. Mothers, fathers, do not let society manipulate and exploit your children. That's what people do. This is capitalism 101, fascism 101. Everybody's going to say, do as I tell you. Or get in line. Do as I tell you. You're a slave. That is no good. That is no good, especially being an American. So what Rousseau goes through, the only book Rousseau recommends the children is to read Robinson Crusoe. And Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe in 1719 in order to teach self-sufficiency as well as to inspire a sense of wonder, of exploration. That's the only book. From 0 to 12, here's Robinson Crusoe. Then walk away. Do no harm to others. That's the only rule that they need. Do no harm to others. Here's Robinson Crusoe. Now, go be, who you want to be. Go wander in the woods. Go, discover, try scientific experiments. Try social experiments. Talk to this person. Try some politicking, So, God, it is so freaking hot in this room. It is crazy. Okay, so as well as inspire a sense of wonder, of exploration, albeit it should be noted that Robinson Crusoe has been criticized for being a racist, barbaric, imperialist, is the archetype for the European colonizer and explorer during the 16 and 1700s. Robinson Crusoe set up his slave plantation in Brazil after earlier on selling his best friend into slavery after his best friend helped him out of captivity from another oppressor. Page 21. Rousseau's Emile, his best and most important works, his most important of all his writings, compares the education of people to plants growing, specifically a nascent shrub, and utilizing cultivation in order to help it grow. It is to you that I address myself, tender and foresighted mother, who are capable of keeping the nascent shrub away from the highway and securing it from the impact of human opinions. Cultivate and water the young plant before it dies. Its fruits will one day be your delights. Form an enclosure around your child's soul at an early date. Someone else can draw its circumference, but you alone must build a fence. Plants are shaped by cultivation and men by education. The imagery that Jean-Jacques Rousseau paints up as human society is irreverent. Rousseau criticizes the smothering effects of human beings bound up immediately as soon as they are birthed, like a mental patient with a straitjacket on. Hardly has the baby emerged from the mother's womb, and hardly has he enjoyed the freedom to move and stretch his limbs before he is given new bounds. He is swaddled, laid out, with the head secured and the legs stretched out, the arms hanging beside his body. He is surrounded with linens and trusses of every kind, which do not permit him to change position, and he is lucky if he had not been squeezed to the point of being prevented from breathing, and if care is taken to lay on him his side in order that the water should come out of his mouth can fall by themselves, for he would not have the freedom of turning his head to the side to facilitate the flow. I do not see what he has gained by being born. He was born free, and now he's all tightly wound up in swaddling clothes.